knowing that nobody is going to try anymore to come and change the regime, the level of support for Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, sleeper cells, they're going to become so much bolder with so much more confidence without much less fear of regime change when they have a nuclear weapon. So they're going to become a lot much bigger of a problem to the rest of the world once they go nuclear. And don't doubt that that's what their goal is. Like if the Islamic Republic doesn't fall, they will eventually have an atomic bomb. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, next we have Leonard C.
Hey, how's it going? Hello, everyone, and thank you, Armin, for this space and your time. Armin, in the joint stream with Goldie, you touched on the fact that this is the minority in Iran, the people who carry these extremist. You said it's like a 5%. Okay, so my issue is that if 5% of the apples are rotten, and I have 100 apples in my kitchen, it's impossible to live with the option that one of these apples, if five of those 100 apples is capable and willing to suicide bomb in the kitchen and take out every other vegetable with it. The thing is that you're right when you're saying education or indoctrination is the issue, and that these are smart people touting these false narratives, but they're touting it to stupid people. I'm sort of asking, how do you handle these post-revolution sleeper cells, that believe that their god has been eliminated by the evil Israel and the USA, right? If they can still carry this belief that the Ayatollah is the representation of the Messiah in lieu of Messiah's existence, etc. And a few more things about the. This is my question, and just a note about the discussion with Jeffrey from a second ago. I wouldn't take anything really at face value because, similar to the 12-day war, there was like, I think, a week leading up to it where the entire media was like, oh no, Netanyahu and Trump are not aligned, there's a misunderstanding, and it was meant to get the gears going in the obvious direction, like knowing that the media is going to overreact and churn this for a week allowed them the freedom of space to act. And finally, just one thing, and I'm sorry that I'm standing on a soapbox here. The thing that you mentioned about the nuclear option and that they will lash out and attack everyone. This is the Islamist two good options strategy. I'm telling you, you can either pay me jizya, okay, and not convert, and that's a good option. The other good option is convert to Islam. And the third option, which is why would you take it? I gave you two good options, is we will kill you. They don't have any other thing other than that. So that's the issue with Islam. Thank you.
All right, so guys, from now on, if we have multiple points, let's do one point at a time. So that I think let me respond to one point and then give me the second point. I think that would work better, right? New policy. With regards to the extreme, you're talking about extremists. Let me just actually clarify something. We don't know exactly what the level of support for the Islamic Republic is. I think it's under 5%. Okay, some people say 1%, but we don't know. However, whatever the level of support for the Islamic Republic is, the level of extremists is higher than that, because there are some people within Iran who don't support the Islamic Republic because it's not radical enough, it's not Islamic enough. So you have to take those into account as well. There are so many people within, well, not many, like it's not like they're not like they're still a small, very small minority. Like for example, I'm just going to make up numbers, right? For example, if the support for the Islamic Republic is 1%, then the radical crazy Muslims are 2%. Okay, because some people have stopped supporting the Islamic Republic because it's not Islamic enough. There are many people who have defected from the Islamic Republic because women in Iran are not wearing hijab and the regime is not doing anything about it, right? There are many people. There are some people who have defected from the regime because they actually have, they were wise enough to see that their response to Israel during the 12-day war was pathetic. They're like, you are embarrassing us, right? There are some people who have defected from the Islamic Republic because they know that the Islamic Republic is talking to Trump, like they're lying when they're saying like, oh my god, like we're not actually talking, look, talk to the hand, talk to the hand, we're not going to talk directly to you, we're going to have like, because you killed Qasim Soleimani, they're like, okay, we're not children, you're actually talking to the killer of Qasim Soleimani. Like what, there's a, they say like nizam uskolamun karde, which means like the regime thinks we're retarded. So some of these radicals are actually not that retarded, and they are upset with the Islamic Republic because they're like, do you really think, okay, sure, this propaganda that you're working on works with some of your followers, but some of us really understand what's going on, and they're angry because they're saying this is not what we did the revolution for. And by the way, a lot of these people have a problem with the name republic in the Islamic Republic, right? So they want to topple the Islamic Republic and just bring, what do they call it, Jamhuriya Islami, Hukumat Islami, so basically Islamic government, without, like, they want to remove even the, because they understand the word republic for them is Western, the
Like an
parliament
imamate?
is Western.
They want an imamate?
Imamate, yeah, imamate, but that's not what they're calling it. They're calling it Hukumat Islami, which means Islamic rule. Imamate is what the Taliban calls it right now, right? So they want to get rid of the idea of a president. They don't want to get rid of the idea of like a parliament and everything. They're getting closer to, just like having Islam rule, right? So we have to take that into account as well. So your question is like, how do we deal with these people? But yeah, but Susie, you're right. It would be technically. I mean, it wouldn't be an, yeah. I mean, it's an imamat is supposed to be when the imam of your time is present, right? So, for example, if when Hussein is alive, he's the imam of our time. When Ali was alive, he's supposed to be the imam of our time. Right now, the Mahdi is supposed to be the imam of our time, right? And he's in hiding. So I don't know how you could have an imamat without without the living imam present. But I'm pretty sure they will come up with creative ways to suggest that Khamenei is the, I don't know, could rule in his place or something. But with regards to Leonard, you say, how do we deal with these people? I mean, this is depends on the type of radicals we're talking about, because a lot of these people are radicals, but they will just have toxic ideas but not become violent, right? Like we have to see what percentage of them are going to become security threats. So I think in a free Iran, we're going to have so much anti-Islamic, the most of the population is going to be so anti-Islamic that the people who have these Islamic views are going to find that this is really not their country anymore, right? I think we need to talk to an expert regarding what would happen if you were a Muslim who thought that the Islamic Republic represents you and Iran is a country for Shia Muslims, or if you were one of those who think that the Islamic Republic is not Islamic enough, if the Islamic Republic falls and now Iran becomes the Islamophobia capital of the whole world, and you're a citizen in this country, and going around with your religious views, people look down on you. And imagine, like, if you're going to the bank, people look at you funny because of the Islamic clothing that you're wearing. If people who are going to the mosque, people sing. I think it's going to get, it could potentially get really, really anti Islamic, the environment in Iran, especially given the massacre that we had. I can imagine in Iran where people are being shamed for praying. I can imagine in Iran where people are going to be shamed for wearing a headscarf. I could imagine right now that a woman with hijab passing by and people looking at them like, still, you're still wearing a hijab after what happened. I can imagine that being the future of Iran. So you guys could tell me, like, what do you think happens to people that now feel like, okay, this, like, would they migrate out of Iran? Would they become isolated and more radicalized? What do you think will happen? Like, I don't know what will happen. I think this is actually new territory for us. Before even education could get to these people regarding like, oh, maybe Islam is not a good religion or not, I think we're going to see a lot of hatred and shaming against these type of people. I think a lot of people who are religious are going to not even express their religion, are not going to basically keep it to themselves. When it comes to the security threats, those ones just need to be like a like intelligence operation, anti-terrorism operation. So, I'm pretty sure we're going to have like a Shia terrorist group that is going to try to topple the new secular democratic regime to bring Islamic rule back. Some of them are going to be convinced that this is good. This is weird, but let me tell you why. Some of them are going to be happy that the Islamic Republic has fallen because they're like, oh, this is exactly based on the prophecy, because the Mahdi is supposed to come back when there's only how many was it? I think 114 people left in support of Mahdi. They're gonna be like, "Oh my God, we're losing. This is great. That means the Mahdi is coming soon. So we're gonna keep fighting on the right side until the Mahdi comes back." But the fact that we're losing, some of them are going to see this as a sign of the Mahdi's return to be sooner. Some of them are going to see it that the opposite. So there's two views. One is that before Mahdi comes back, we're very weak and there's only a few of us left. And some people have the view, like, no, the Islamic Republic is going to be handing over an army to the Mahdi, so when he comes, he's ready. So some people are going to actually be encouraged by the fact that they're losing. Okay, so it's weird. But again, I don't know. Education and informing people about Islam is a long term thing. But when it comes to, I think like short term, we're going to see so many radical changes when it comes to anti-Islamic views and shaming, and this becoming Islam becoming a taboo in many environments inside Iran. That those short term effects is going to be so much more observable than the long term effects of education. Sorry, BT, I went for too long.
No, no problem. I'm curious about the Mehdi. Are the Jews hiding behind trees and rocks before then or after?
Before then.
Okay, I
Before.
just have to make
Yeah.
sure. Maybe I should buy a few trees. Next, we have left-handed.
Left-handed.
So the
Oh,
first one is,
Susan.
can you hear me?
Go on.
Okay.
Yes, go on.
So the first one is, shit, now I forgot. 1 second. All right. So are Iranians familiar with kind of like the story of not Cyrus the Great, but Alexander the Great, just as much as Cyrus? Or is it just mainly just Cyrus due to your history?
Well, Alexander the Great attacked Iran and he burned down Persepolis, so he's not a popular figure among Iranians.
Okay, so it's kind of like one of those grudges that never ends, like one of those blood feuds.
Yeah,
Because like a
I've
lot of
seen
his
some
ideas are
people.
just a lot of his
I've
ideas
seen.
are easier to translate in terms of capitalism. I'd have to dig into Cyrus, but I was just thinking, I was just curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, he burned down Persepolis, so there's not that many people who like him in Iran.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. And the second question, so really what I'm trying to get to the heart of is like in America, we've made so many kind of mistakes that are kind of built into the systems that we have here. I'm not talking about like the woke stuff or the racism or anything like that. I'm talking about like rationalism is like this rationalistic mindset is what got us to where we are now. But now we're kind of hitting diminishing returns on innovation. And I think that there's a huge opportunity for Iran to kind of look at what America has hit a dead end and figure out, okay, here's how we can redesign like an improved version of what America has through the same values. So in technology, they call it like the leapfrogging effect, where like and then you bring in all the latest infrastructure, and it's really easy to do that because there's nothing there that you have to destroy. And I think from a social level, from an organizational level, Iran's in that situation where like there's a huge opportunity for you guys to learn from our mistakes. And I'm just a bit curious if are you guys
But
trying to like compete with them, like not compete with America, but kind of copy what we have now? Or can we like look at like, okay, here's some honest criticisms about what America could improve and what we can borrow from America that also supports our local traditions?
so just let me just mention this, that America actually borrowed from Iran when it comes to so many of the values that made America great, right? The founding fathers of America referred to Cyrus the Great's way tolerance and acceptance of multiple different people with different ways of life. that was a role model. They actually refer to it, right? They actually use it as their model. That is their model that the American founding fathers used to turn America into a land of opportunity that was open to all people around the world. So this is why they also consider Cyrus the Great's Cyrus Cylinder the first declaration of human rights in history, right? When it comes to the mistakes of America, America's mistakes is, first of all, America is still growing, but is the gap between America's productivity and growth is actually widening. So America, even if America makes mistakes, is still the land of opportunity and is still much ahead when it comes to productivity and contribution to the whole world, is ahead of every other country, and it could
I can
continue to
clarify a
be.
bit just because I know what you're saying, and you're right. It's like the momentum is what is has diminishing returns, and like the costs of improving innovation has diminishing returns. And
Usually the momentum slows a little bit right before it peaks again, right? And
that's
I
true
think
most of the time.
United States is going to also see another peak at some point, right? Pretty soon. It usually goes on, gets really fast with a new industrial revolution, and then it slows down, and then it gets closer to the next industrial revolution, and then it peaks up again, right? Because of the technological advancements, right? But America's mistakes, is usually when it steers away from the values that made it great. And the good thing about Iran is that Iranian people really do believe in, and this is not about America, this is about every society. Any society that abides by these values, and I actually have listed them. If you want, I can read them. Any society that abides by these values progresses faster. And the United States became the greatest country in the world because it was, it actually not only abides by these values, it actually sometimes created these values, right? But
Can I
the
just
good
give
thing about Iran,
one concrete example, and then I'll let you and others can comment on that. So, as a concrete example, you can look at Berkshire Hathaway and the way that value investing is different from, say, day trading or most other kind of speculative
wait,
investment.
all right, get to the point because you interrupted a point I was trying to make, but make your point fast so that I could then make my point.
Okay, so Berkshire Hathaway has completely been able to decentralize their decision making within their company, and that's something that other companies are not able to do. In America, we've had this silent war going on between the local government and federal government, where all of the incentives come from the federal government, and as a result, due to political pressure, there's this incentive for the federal government to accumulate power and to distribute incentives downward to kind of control those local governments. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we have is that bottom up growth is disincentivized by the way that the system is structured itself. But the way Berkshire Hathaway has done it, and he has a book about this, it's called Poor Charlie's Almanac, I think would be
All
like
right,
a better
let me.
approach.
I think we're getting off track. I think it's not a. First of all, okay. I think we're getting off track. It's not a good idea to compare how a country operates to how a fund operates. Okay, a mutual fund or any other fund operates. These are completely different. That one is in an area of finance, the other one is the area of politics. These are not comparable. One cannot be used as a model for other. Okay, it's kind of like going into a shoe store to try to figure out how to operate a hospital. So that's not a good way of comparing things. When it comes to the balance between federal and state governments, I think actually America has shown that its model works very well because it basically, instead of being one experiment, it ended up being 50 different experiments. And the competition between the states has created the ability for any state, if any state moves away from the values that make America great, then all of a sudden the other states are competing with it. So it cannot move too far away from it because people have mobility to move between states. No state can really fuck up too much, because if you fuck up too much, there's mobility between states because you're all American citizens, and the competition makes the states have to come back to the models that work, or else too many people are going to leave your state. It has been one of the reasons for its success because it has created a competitive, a Darwinian model between all of its states that has actually helped all of them grow very faster than other countries, right? The greatest resource of Iran is the Iranian people. And I say that not just because they're very educated and very motivated and they're very entrepreneurial and they're very patriotic. I say this because they also, through the experience that they had in the past 47 years, they have the proper values that make a society great. And let me just give you the list of values that I think that if a people in a society have, and if their state represents those values as well, is basically ideal for maximum growth in a society. Okay, so these are, and you could basically summarize all of these as classical liberal values or Enlightenment values or Western values or the modern Republican tradition. It has different names, right? So these are separation of powers, secularism, representative democracy, free speech or free expression, free trade, free markets, respect for fundamental human rights, property rights, respect for the scientific method, freedom of assembly, respect for rule of law, civic nationalism, individualism or individual liberty, equality under the law. These are the values that are very common in a society. And if the state also represents those values, that's a society that's going to do well.
Okay, next I've got two questions that were given to me in the chat. First, how long for us to get rid of the regime?
Wait, the question is how long is it going to take for us to get rid of the regime?
How long could it take for the US to get rid of the regime?
Okay, the US is not going to get rid of the regime. The Iranian people are going to get rid of the regime. Okay, this is an Iranian revolution. This is not an American revolution. It's not an Israeli revolution. With US help, the Iranian people are going to get rid of the regime. I don't know when. No one knows when. Anybody who comes with a prediction, you know, tell them to stop, right? Nobody knows when. I just know it will happen. I know it will happen because the Iranian people are more determined than ever, and the regime has been is weaker than ever before, and this cannot last. And if the United States doesn't help, the Iranian people will topple this regime. It's going to take longer, and it's going to be very much more costly. If the United States does help, it will still be the Iranian people who end up toppling the regime. But because of US help or because of Israel's help, it's going to happen faster and the cost is going to be a lot lower, the cost in lives. Many thousands of less people will die, many thousands of people's lives, Iranians' lives will be saved. And also, by the way, not just Iranians, Israeli lives and other people from around the world will be saved if they help, right? But the reason why United States or Israel cannot do regime change is because they cannot or would not put boots on the ground. You cannot do regime change just with aerial support. You need boots on the ground. You need to actually go and capture government institutions. You need to actually go and because no matter how many air bombardments you do from the air, it doesn't matter. The institutions that make the Islamic Republic, they could repair that, they could redo that. They go underground. All of that could come back. For a regime change to happen, somebody needs to show up and take over government institutions and everything that makes the Islamic Republic. And United States will not put, so Israel is missing military ability to put boots on the ground, and United States is missing political capital to put boots on the ground. So United States can put boots on the ground from a military perspective, but it cannot put boots on the ground in Iran from a political perspective. It doesn't have enough political capital. The American people would not stand for United States putting boots on the ground in Iran. And honestly, that's a good thing. We don't even want that. Like the Iranian people don't want any boots on the ground, unless it's like a I don't know, like a Mossad or like a commando operation, like a couple of individuals that go in and take someone else. They don't want like a ground invasion, right? That's not what the Iranian people are hoping for, right? They're just but the boots on the ground that we do have. So Israel doesn't have enough manpower to have boots on the ground. Iran is very big. Iran is not a neighbor to Israel. It's not like Lebanon. It's not like Gaza. It's not like Syria, which are like it's basically the people who are these are like special operations and stuff like that, right? But given that for regime change you need boots on the ground, the only boots on the ground that you could rely on are the Iranian people that are already there. And given that the vast majority of the Iranian people want the regime change. All you need to do is basically remove some obstacles from their way and just let the Iranian people do the regime change themselves. So that's regarding who does the regime change, but also with regards to when, nobody knows. And anybody who gives you a prediction, they're just guessing, and you shouldn't take it seriously. It could be anything. I'm not even going to give you a window. I'm not even going to guess. But all I know is that this is a tree that is falling. We're swinging the axe at the tree. We don't know which swing is going to take it down, but all we know is that if we keep swinging, it will come down.
Okay, thank you. The second question says, across multiple news sites, it has been highlighted that CENTCOM are conducting a multi-day aerial readiness exercise in the Middle East. The purpose is to, quote, demonstrate and test the ability to deploy, disperse, and sustain combat air power across the region. How significant do you think this is in the context of an attack on Iran?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of people talk about that as well, and it suggests that an attack might come later than some people anticipate because it seems like they're gathering information and testing for everything. But I think Jeffrey would have a much better answer to this than I would. So, Jeffrey, do you have any
So
information on this?
that kind of training is one indicator that one might use to game whether or not we're leading, striking, not striking. For instance, when we went and did the yoinkening regarding Maduro, I mean, they trained for that for like a month, right? So, I mean, it's definitely a positive indicator.
His follow up was, do you think direct preparation for a strike or a smokescreen for surprise attack?
Could be either, both.
And Jeffrey, also, does this also suggest that this might take longer than some people are hoping for because of all the preparation might take longer?
So remember in a lot of the other responses, we talked about how it's a complex adaptive system that's fluid and ever changing, and actors engage in competitive adaptation. So it's not just the mullah regime in Iran that's currently occupying Iran. You also have other people like Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state sending in stuff to support the mullahs, Chaicoms, all these other sub-state transnational wackadoodles that the mullahs pulled in that are like butchering brave Persian protesters and resistance. So as that environment changes, so does the good guys' view of how to take apart this monster, right? So they're going to constantly modify their assessment on the fly. That's why it's called competitive adaptation. Both sides are trying to read the environment and the other actors as quickly and as accurately as possible.